house to house.
Why you want to pick it up?
Go for it.
Yeah, as we were talking about those first days and weeks, one of my notes that I wrote, and then I started seeing a counselor right away.
Yes.
And then I had to break up with that counselor because it wasn't working out. So in a really classy move, I broke up with my counselor via text.
Oh, man.
Well, I picked the counselor because I remember looking at the choices, and I knew the address. I was going to have to drive to a town that was about 50 miles away, and I remember seeing the address thinking, I know where that is. I think I could get to that. Because at that point, I wasn't even sure I could go, but I just didn't know. So I picked the counselor based on that, and it wasn't a good fit, so I broke up via text. And then I started seeing a wonderful counselor. I wanted to see a faith-based counselor, and so that's what I started with. But one of our early sessions, we talked about how becoming a widow is like having a baby. And he would think this was the most hilarious thing, but I am convinced of the similarities of it, except in our situation, we didn't know the accident was coming or the death was coming, where if you're having a baby, you typically have a little advanced warning.
Some people seem to know.
Right. Right. But people bring you food. Your mom shows up and scrubs your kitchen floor, which she did after my girls were born. Your body changes, significant body changes, whether it's weight loss, weight gain,
hair
loss, diet change. This perpetual insomnia and just complete fatigue all the time. And one of them was when you have that baby, and those first few weeks you're like, this is my life. This is going to be my life until the end of time. I'm going to have a screaming infant, and my life is over. Clearly need to cancel all social engagements. I will never travel again. That's how I felt those first 12 weeks was.
Oh, easily.
I will never travel by myself again. I can't, my life as I know it is over. And then you kind of come out of it, and your baby gets a little older, and you realize that I can do things, and people stop bringing you food.
They do.
Your body kind of goes back to normal. I don't know. I just always thought there were a lot of similarities. I will tell you, having a baby is way more fun.
For sure.
The prize at the end's a little better.
Way.
But it is those first, especially the first 6 months are a lot of that fog. And will I ever sleep again? Will I ever feel the same?
Will I ever be able to finish a sentence? A thought, actually, for me, is more of a complete thought.
Yes. Will I ever read books like I used to?
Yes. We're both readers.
I finished another book this week. I'm back actually finishing books. That's a big deal.
I'm reading a really good book right now. We'll talk off air about it. The therapist I still see a therapist, and I'm pretty convinced that I've probably bought her lake home.
Well, my therapist retired, and I'm convinced I may be.
You're the reason.
I pushed him into early retirement.
I think you financed it. That
could also be it.
Yeah, I think you financed it. I don't know. Well, here's a funny thing about my therapist. So I am involved with a large festival in the city, and I was doing a band announcement over that weekend, and I looked down to do the band announcement, and there she is in the front row, and I'm like, well, hey, there. Hey.
Kind of like seeing the teacher outside the classroom.
Totally. I was like, oh, well, okay. Hey, therapist.
Yeah.
But she's great, and I think it's really important that you get your children in as quickly as possible and you in as quickly as possible, because you've got to have someone who understands what you're going through.
That wasn't directly connected to it.
Exactly.
I would call it emotionally vomiting.
Yeah.
I would leave a therapy session, and I had never done talk therapy before, so it was kind of a new experience for me. But I would leave there just exhausted but refreshed. But I did. It was like
a good cry.
Yeah, and I just literally would it all out to him.
I think anybody that's going through this needs to strongly consider that. Or I thought about going to the group. I didn't go to the group. And then I wanted to go to that group, that widows group, but it was like 45 minutes away. And I've not heard hide nor hair. I've not heard hide nor hair of that group anymore. So I feel like I feel like I'm probably where I need to be right now.
Yeah, I didn't have access to group things that worked during the day, which is what I needed. I looked into some of the group stuff for my kids, and
For
that
sure.
freaked them out. They did
Did it?
not want to do that at all. And so they did see a counselor. And I think getting into counseling right away is very preventative.
Yes.
You don't want to say, well, I'll see how I handle the next 6 weeks and then I'll give counseling a shot.
No.
I think you go at it on the front end, get that toolbox filled with the right stuff, and that's going to make the road a lot easier.
It was.
And don't be afraid to break up with your counselor.
No, don't. I
Totally
mean,
okay.
sometimes things just don't work out. Mine, I've had a really good luck with mine. Now, my sons broke up with him because apparently he was fine. Because after so
Right.
many months, and I was like, no, we're not breaking up. You can't do this to me. And she's like, yes, we can. And I said, oh, okay. And I worry more with children, developmentally, like at the sort of, for me, he's starting to, I think, in the very beginning stages of puberty, and I worry that that's when it's going to manifest, and maybe in high school, and then maybe in college. The
Absolutely.
daddy issues or whatever.
I
I
worry
mean,
about
your
that
girls
too.
are really strong.
They are, but you don't know
What they're thinking about.
yeah, and when that will present itself. And I struggle sometimes, we may have tears at night. Well, I don't know if that's what 15-year-old girls do. I've never had a 15-year-old
Right.
girl. Is this just adolescent angst or is this grief? And I have a lot of trouble sometimes distinguishing from it and not panicking of I better make her a therapy appointment tomorrow. Because my girls aren't in therapy anymore either because the counselor said, we're solid, we're good, you can check out. And I do. I worry about that all the time.
Sure.
Am I going to discover that I didn't keep him in longer, or I don't know.
When do you think you'll tell your girls you're doing this, or did you tell them you're doing this?
I told them I was coming to see my friend Sarah, and they always laugh because I always preference it with my friend.
As was it my enemy?
Right.
I'm coming to see my
I'm
enemy.
going to see a complete stranger named Sarah. So they
But
know
don't worry,
I'm down
but don't
here.
worry, girls.
And
Yeah.
they're very intrigued by the whole idea.
Yeah.
So I kind of in vague terms, but
Yeah, my son knows, but he's like, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
he would never
Yeah.
listen to it, and I wouldn't want him to, at least not for
Right.
20 more years, at
Right.
least, maybe 30. Although he's probably already got like a camera, or he's probably already like listening now. He probably figured out a way to wire it in here without telling me, which would be something that he would do.
true.
So first week, first month, I don't even remember.
I don't either. We were in the process of selling our house.
You had a big change.
When my husband died, we had a closing date. We were moving into town. And then my husband was a healthcare provider and owned his own practice. And that had to be sold. In my head, I thought, well, we'll get that done in the next year. But then smarter people around me suggested that is something you would need to do immediately. So we had to do a lot of big things right away. We had to pack up my house, which I don't remember doing at all. The day before the accident, my husband and I had spent the day packing just like some college things, just kind of going through what do we keep, what do we not keep. And we were college sweethearts, so that was kind of a bittersweet memory now. But we really we had a great day of doing that. And then, so we had the piece of the house, we had the piece of selling the business, and then I had an accident to settle, a wrongful death claim. There
Yes.
wasn't a lawsuit or anything, but there's still just a lot of legal pieces involved with that I didn't know at the time. But
How long did that piece take to settle?
that probably took 6 to 8 weeks, and
That's faster than I thought.
it kind of all came to a head the same week. The week of our wedding anniversary was the week we closed on the house, was the week we got an offer on the business, and is the week that I had to make some decisions regarding that wrongful death suit. And that is a lot of living in 1 week.
Sure is.
The wedding anniversary alone was probably where my focus was. And I call it my board of directors, take care of those other pieces.
Smart.
So those first 6 to 8 weeks are really just a blur. I still go through things in my closet in my house that I didn't put there. Someone else moved us. You know, the high school football team moved
That's a great
us.
story. I love that story.
Because when you live in a small town, 3 men in a truck, they're not there.
Yeah, they're not there.
So the high school football coach called and said, I'm heavily involved with the local schools, and called and said, we're going to move you. And a friend of mine arranged all it, and I would recommend it to anyone in 2 hours. One
Boom.
house was emptied, the other house, they set it up identical to our old house. Living room and
I
stuff
give
was
them
in the
so
same.
much credit, these boys.
Yeah, class act, absolute class act. And I still have yet to find a ding in any furniture. If there
Wonderful.
is, they're not telling anybody.
Right. Exactly.
So those were my first few months. And I remember we took a family vacation with my husband's family.
I remember that.
Over Thanksgiving. So that would have been about 4 or 5 months in. And I remember coming home from that and feeling like maybe I had slightly turned a corner.
Yes.
So that's, I don't know, when I feel like a little bit of the fog started to lift and I could maybe go back to work. And I was very fortunate to not have to return to work in a week. And I know not everyone has that opportunity.
I chose to return to work in a week and I shouldn't have. I don't even remember it. And I know that there were things, I mean, in what I did, it's very detail oriented, and wow, the things I missed, and wow, the things I never missed prior to that, before all of this. And
That widow brain.
and I still have it.
Oh, yeah.
I still forget things. I don't know if people forget appointments or things, but I still do. It's weird, and I'm not that person.
Right. I used to not do that in my previous
Ever.
life. And
Ever.
and it's scary.
And when you're getting a text saying, I'm here, and I'm thinking, where? What are you talking about? I'm at my house. Remember, we were going to meet for whatever. Oh, I mean, that happens. That still happens. And it's very unnerving to think, wow, how am I still missing stuff? And I'm almost a year and a half in.
Yeah, I absolutely get that.
And then you had touched on all of your big changes in the first weeks. You and I have laughed about what you're, air quotes, not supposed to do in the first year, don't make any big changes in your life in the first year. And I had 2 cars, sold 2 cars, got 2 cars, and I only have one driver and then I had a house, bought a house, closed right after Christmas, because that's a good idea. Moved on Valentine's Day, which is even better. And then finally sold the other house in July or August, because it just took a long time to get it on the market, because my husband was a pack rat, and his family, who I'm sure will hear this, who knows this, are pack rats. And so it was hard to release things out into the universe that, So, yeah, the things you're not supposed to do, I pretty much did.
Yeah, I broke a lot of rules.
Apparently, if those are, I mean, who set those rules? Because I don't know.
I don't know. The same person who abides by the 5 stages of grief rule.
Which
Remember
there is
that?
none,
There's
and there
not.
is no such thing.
I know.
Elizabeth
I've read
Kubler-Ross, sorry.
Never
No, thank you.
intended that to be.
No, thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about that, because there were weeks where I kept waiting for the anger stage to hit.
I haven't had it.
And I never had an anger stage. And I think I could totally be angry, because clearly my husband's death was someone else's fault.
Exactly.
But I never hit that stage. And I remember thinking, well, when is it going to come? Is it going to be in 18 months? My counselor was really helpful in that point of, those grief stages were never intended to be a checklist for someone grieving. They were more intended for someone looking at their own future death and learning of their impending illness or whatever. So
Right, and all along, people think that this is what it is, and she's just in the
she
whatever.
must be at the anger stage.
And I'm like, I haven't. I can say maybe if there's a frustration stage, I could say I'm probably in
annoyance.
that.
I had heavy annoyance
Yeah,
stage where
still
everyone
have it.
annoyed me. Yeah.
Still have it. Like sometimes you just look at someone and they're talking to you, and you're just like, I don't even. Yeah, it's like, stop. I'm listening to 30% of what you're saying because right now I just can't function. But yeah, one thing too, and I think you and I have discussed this. I mean, we can go on and on and on. Sort of judgments of financials and purchases, and I don't know, just lifestyles.
Right.
We both have husbands who took care of things that they're supposed to be taken care of. I am not, living in a $5 million home, and I will never live in a $5 million home. But I do think that, I'm thankful that I'm going through this with enough to be able to live on. And, I probably don't have to work if I don't want to, but I'm going to choose to after I take a little sabbatical here. But the judgment of the money is a little bit unnerving and just, I don't know.
I would agree with you very much. I've had a lot of that.
And parenting.
And
parenting
parenting.
choices especially.
Parenting choices.
And you're in a small town, so people really
Yeah.
look at you.
Yeah. Or just, you might be showered and presentable and out laughing and smiling with friends. And, that's soon. It's soon for you to be doing that. And, overall, I would say very supportive community, but
For sure.
sometimes those comments, those are the ones you remember and stick out. And yeah, it can be really hurtful. And it has helped my daughters and I to be better about not judging others. We'll never be cured of that. But
No, but I do believe,
we've
I
very
think
much
I've
been-
stopped. That's our meal. Oh, that's the dog. Sorry, that's the dog. Wow. It's a dog. She's first week, I think, is something that we've got in the bag there pretty well.
I talked about how I had on my list, losing a spouse, like having a baby.
That was good.
Is social media helpful when grieving?
That's a good one. Let's do a
I know
social.
the answer, but
Well, we don't know. That's social media. I still think we should talk about the tombstones.
That's one of those things.
Let's start with that one.
See, that social media thing too, because
That's huge.
That's
Because that ties into judgment. Because people have judged. I've told you,
or how many people can have a wedding anniversary in August that you see
Yes.
pictures. But at the same time, that has been some of my greatest resources.
Yes.
The one
Oh,
for
yeah.
the widow is the social media platform that was so helpful.
see,
That-
and
she's a
weird-
genius.
and one of the weird things too, like with social media, not weird, but I guess it's different when you get like invitations from somebody that's passed. It's like, it's like that's kind of like his birthday or something like that, and you're like, hey, and then people are still posting, and like you can't. And that's
that
one
might
thing
be
you talk
something.
about too is like, people are still posting their site. So do you take it down eventually or leave it up?
I'm
Just
in
like-
that position
Great,
right now. I
Because
don't know.
that's a great
You almost
topic.
leave it as a memorial to that person, I would
That's.
think.
I haven't
right?
taken it
And
down.
like
Right.
2 weeks before my husband's accident, I put up a family picture as our, profile
Right.
picture.
Right.
I don't want to take it down because as soon as I take it down, everyone's going to know I
Right,
changed
absolutely,
it.
yeah.
There's
So yeah,
no way
so
to
that's
discreetly change that
anything,
without.
anything. So the site has to remain as it was the day that they passed.
Pure.
And this is on my site, so if I change the family
on
picture and
yours.
don't have a picture of Dion in there anymore, clearly
I
she
see.
has
She's
moved on.
Right, right.
And that's not the case. I worry that
See, I
that
think
picture
that's
freaks
see,
somebody
that's what
out.
you guys ought to talk.
All right, let's talk
Okay,
about
so let's start with
social
social media. So
You start.
Okay, so you want me to lead in with this topic?
Yeah, so I mean, you can
Like,
Today.
Today on
If
Widow
you wanna-
Chat.
Widow
yeah,
Chat.
you want to try that. Just
Okay.
like, today I want to chat. We're going to be talking about social media. I'm Sarah, and then you can introduce yourself.
We don't say our last names yet. We don't want to give too much
Oh,
away.
yeah. I'm messed
Just
up.
I said Duffy's, so that gave away. But
I
everybody's
said my
listening
husband
to.
was a small town health.
I mean, the people that are listening to this are going to know
Eagles
us.
Club.
The people know us.
High school football team. We're
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Boulevard Brewery. Where does she live?
Where she's at.
Everybody knows.
This
Come on, but the porta potty, then that's got to be in there. Okay.
Who else gets beer delivered and a porta potty to their backyard to their husbands?
and helps with a major
Right.
community festival.
Yes, there you
Right.
go. It has a
Yes,
football
in the
team.
community, which everybody will know. Yeah.
Where did these two people come from?
Yeah, what are
All right,
these?
so
Okay, so I'll just say who I am.
Just go ahead, yeah. just
And
say
we're
wel-
talking about
just say,
social
you know,
media.
welcome to Widow Chat.
Welcome
and,
to-
and kind of give them like that. If this is your first time, to
Okay,
Widow Chat.
Hang
enough
on.
information
Mimi.
that.
Right,
Son of a
this is like, what
biscuit.
is this all about? Like,
Okay.
Okay, we probably need.
I want you to
Okay,
be witty.
I'll try to be. Well, I'm going to try it.
And you can do it a couple times if you don't
Yeah.
like it.
Okay, let me think. I had this. Okay. Welcome to Widow Chat. My name is Sarah. And for those of you new to our podcast, we appreciate you tuning in. We are widows. We are two widows. We are not therapists. We're just two widows going through the same thing. And we hope you'll find something interesting about what we have to say. And today's topic, will focus on social media and widowhood. So I'm going to throw it to Stacy to start this one off.
So this is one of the topics that I put on my list of things I wanted to talk about. So yeah, I'm Stacy. I'm Sarah's fellow widow. And so social media plays a huge part in a widow's life, good and bad. And the role it plays is completely up to the widow. But if you were a Facebook user or an Instagram or even a little Twitter prior to your spouse's death, and that was still the way you kept in touch with people and kept track of what was happening in their lives, it can be really difficult then to hop back on Facebook and see the family photos of your friends who traveled to Mexico for spring break, or someone who put a throwback picture of their wedding anniversary. Those things can hurt, and you may need to just check out of social media for a while. It might be your go-to thing when you don't know what else to do, and sometimes that's a really bad idea, because for me, in those early weeks and months, it kind of heightened my loss. There's one more picture of something that I'm not going to experience again. When 2 weeks ago, I totally was that person posting the picture of the family in Mexico. So that's something I think you really got to be disciplined about. It can be an escape, but it can be a dangerous escape.
Definitely. I think I have a love-hate relationship with it myself, because I was so out of it when my husband passed. He passed suddenly, and I put it out there. I think I put RIP BFW like within hours. Like, it was the same day. He died on a Sunday, and I think I put it out there on Sunday afternoon, and I don't know why I did it. I wished I wouldn't have, because unfortunately that's how a lot of people found out. But it's also been very helpful to me in that, some days if I'm having a bad day, I might just put it out there, not the best day. I don't typically do that, but once in a while I do. I'm probably a little bit more of a public griever, and I probably don't need to be, but it will help if I'm really down. What's hard is, and it's done in a loving way, but when your friends and family post pictures of your loved one, and they mean it in the sweetest way, but sometimes it's just hard to see it, and you get a little bit of a shock sometimes.
Right, you're sitting in the school pickup line and decide to scroll through, and whoa, I wasn't expecting to see that. And
I think people have learned that, if they're going to do that, they ask me.
Right.
And let me know, or like, do you mind if I post this picture? And that's good. And I don't want people to think that they can't. It's just in those first months, it's very alarming at times, because it jolts you. It jolts you. And that along that same line, it is hard to see the family is intact, as I like to say. And I'm so happy that the majority of the people I know in this world are not going through what I'm going through. At times, it's very hard to see it. The anniversary pictures and the happy 20th, 25th anniversary. And I think, boy, I didn't get that. I guess I'm lucky I got 10 and a half years and 3 days, but I didn't get 20 or 25. And that's sometimes on the wrong day, that's just hard to see. And it doesn't mean I'm not happy for them. It's just hard.
And I think that's just a social media, it's something I tell my girls. You can't compare what's going on in your life with the pictures someone has posted. That's not always the best indicator of what's happening in someone's life. But at the same time, I love, seeing those photos of families. Sarah and I noticed an interesting phenomena after, in our previous life, you could post on Facebook, hey, headed to the football game, and 15 people would like it, and you would feel like, yay me, 15 people like my photo. Now, when Sarah or I post something, no less than 100. I mean, and I don't have a lot of friends, but everybody is just so happy to know you're out there doing well. Like, I think the biggest one was my girls and I had a family photo taken, and that was kind of a big milestone event for us to go do that. And it went, and the photographer actually posted it. And it had like 185 likes.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt like a teenage girl counting my likes. And oh my gosh, wow,
popular.
Look at this.
Super popular.
But we joke that we could post that today I brushed my teeth and you'd get 120 likes.
Right. Because the things that we did before, our tragedies happened were things that we did and we still do them. But now I think once you go through that sort of thing, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, you got out of bed and like put a comb through your
And I
hair.
do think, and I have had people tell me that it does help them to see
Yes.
how we're progressing. You know,
Yes.
we may share a grief post that we've seen and make
Yes.
some notes, or we may share a photo of my girls and I on vacation.
Yes.
And it does help people that you don't have day-to-day contact see and
that
know
you're okay.
that you're thriving. And but I think it's important to be honest throughout the process and not just, you know, all smiles and giggles. And
Facebook is not a good indicator of how your life really is. And I
Right.
think there's nothing more important to be said than that, because I've had people tell me, oh, well, you must be doing really great based on your Facebook. And I'm like, no, if you read them all,
right.
I'm not always doing great. But where the love hate comes in with social media and myself is the love part of it is we found, Stacy found her first, our little woman that we stalk on Facebook that writes her blog that has truly made lemonade out of lemons in her life and has just been, I hate to use the word inspiring, but she has been inspiring. And I do love reading her posts, and I like sharing her posts because I am not as eloquent as she is. And some days, as we talked about earlier, she gets it right onto what I might be thinking. And I can just say, this is how I feel, tag it, or share it, and send it out there. And the people start to understand where you're going with it. We need
Absolutely.
to understand. It helps people understand what we're going through. And so for people out there that are going through this, social media can be, it can be your friend and it can be your enemy. It just depends. And on some days it's both. I don't know.
Yeah, it has served a great purpose for me in finding some of those resources.
Yes.
And, you know, especially I live in a rural community and I might not have access to, you know, small groups and young widows groups and those kind of things. And so social media has definitely served its purpose there. I love Twitter for that purpose because there's, you know, I read it for the articles. Can I say that? You know, it connects you to those articles, and I'm kind of a learner, and I feel like if I can read up on it, that will help me tackle it a little better, and it does provide that. But I have a social media struggle right now. Just a few months before my husband's accident, I posted a family picture of us on vacation. You know, the comments were, oh, you should use this for your Christmas card, those
Yeah.
kind of things.
Yeah.
And that was my big profile picture, not the little one,
Right.
the big one.
That's the big, yeah.
So it's still there, you know, and I'm not quite 2.5 years in. And so the question is, how long do you leave it? Well, that's our family photo. Does it make people uncomfortable to see it? And you can't just change it and no one knows. As soon as you change it, everyone knows
Yeah,
that you
everybody
changed
sees
your
you've changed
profile
your
picture.
profile.
I've spent some time trying to figure out how to do it without. Well, then everybody wants to know, why'd you change it? Are you, you know, and so that's my current life dilemma.
I understand that life dilemma, although my profile picture's been the same one since the day I started, which is my son and I, so really that doesn't, but I do put a lot of pictures of my husband, but then other people will go, his Facebook account is still open, and we
So
both
is-
talked about this, and it's left, and we were talking about, do you change it? What do you do with it? When do you get rid of it? When do you stop it? But I can't stop it because,
Have you changed your status?
can we do that? Is there a status change for widow?
No.
Okay.
It would just change from married to not
Unmarried.
in a relationship or whatever.
But see, I don't think that I'm not in a relationship.
I
The
know.
relationship I'm in, he just happens to not be here physically.
Maybe, I know, I haven't changed mine
Like,
either.
I get it.
I know, just get off my back. It's a dilemma that I don't know.
Why don't they have widowhood?
I don't
Or
know.
widower.
I'm guessing
Why don't they
with
have widow and
recent,
widower?
I'm guessing with recent events that might change at Facebook.
Exactly.
You
Do
know,
we need to call them? Shouldn't they kind of already know this?
yeah, I think they'll be onto it soon.
Yeah, really.
Another thing that Facebook has been great, and then days it causes me a lot of tears, are this today in the past
Yeah,
thing.
I don't do that. I try not to.
When
look.
it first started, I couldn't do it. I
Yeah,
could
I
not
don't
look
do it.
back and see that 3 years ago today
I don't
we
do
were
it.
at the pumpkin patch. Every once in a while, one will pop up, and I am.
Yeah,
It just makes me smile.
good.
But that's something you really have to control when you go look at it. You just, I don't do it very often, but on solid days, I might go scroll up and be pleasantly surprised.
Well, and I've learned to, it's some days I just can't do the whole, I can't do it. I
Right.
can't even do the Facebook. I just can't look at it. It's just too hard. On a hard day, yeah, just, it can be too much, I think. And it's not because people are, I mean, nobody's trying to offend or hurt, or it's just hard
You
for
just
me.
have to know what you can handle
Right.
and don't put yourself in a situation that's just going to
There's no reason to torture yourself.
Absolutely.
Just don't look at it for a couple of days
Absolutely.
if you can. And I find that I do that more and more depending on my days, and I don't even scroll that far in anymore. I don't go back too far. Sometimes I just don't want to know things. You
Right.
know.
Right.
I guess that's just kind of where I'm at. That, and I think we touched on the anniversaries, and though I'm so happy for all that have anniversaries still, that is still one of the hardest things for me to see.
And our wedding anniversary was in August, and
yeah.
I think everyone has and all the college friends
did.
that got
Everybody
married the same
did.
time you did, and
Yeah.
so they were celebrating 21 and 22.
Yeah, and you were right there
and
in that.
Boom, that would have been us. And yeah, those are days you just got to set that phone aside and don't torture yourself. That is my advice if I'm dispensing it.
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, I think it just helped get out information for me, but I don't even remember that much about what went on. I just remember I had so many messages, and I had all kinds of
Right.
personal, like, the instant
Private,
messages or
yeah.
whatever, private messages, and I don't even know if I've read half of them still. I really haven't gone back to that day and looked at all the stuff on
I did that not too long ago. Finally
did?
went back and read some of those because that was it's 2014, 15, and that's how people were reaching out to me because they don't know your address to send you a card.
Right.
They don't, your number's not in the book anymore to give you a call, and so they send you a Facebook
Right,
message.
because you
and-
moved and I moved, and so people
Right.
still don't know how to get a hold of me.
So I have later on gone back and read those, and which is great that they're still there.
That's one thing
so
that's preserved.
That is nice.
Did people go onto your husband's page and just
They
post
do.
on his? People
do.
do that for mine too. I've done it. I tag him every
Yeah,
now and
I
again.
haven't done that.
It's done it like 2 times. I've done it like probably 2 or 3 times.
I have one friend of ours that was a running buddy of my husband's, and he will go on there and tell him about his run or
That's
tag
cool.
him in his run.
And see, for
or-
those reasons, I think it's neat to keep it
It
out
is,
there.
and so
People do that. I've noticed.
Yeah, changing the profile picture and getting rid of his page and changing my status are things that.
That would flip everybody's skirts.
Yeah, and I'm not ready to.
Flip skirts.
No, not even my own.
Yeah,
So-
no. I mean, I just, and then it's like on the anniversary, he always posted a picture, and so I post a picture of us, and that's always a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only been through this once since he died, but it's my 12-year anniversary's days away, so I have that looming, and will I post a picture? Or
If you do post a picture,
will
Sarah,
will you like it?
I will like it, and I will also say, you're so inspiring.
That you actually got, just because I finally got married. I got married a little bit later in life than most of my friends. So yes. Oh,
You
yeah,
are inspiring.
I am, because I got married, and
Yeah.
I've gotten through it. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I think social media, there's a lot to it, good and bad. You just have to embrace it. You just have to know what you're dealing with, and don't get in on it if you're not ready for it on a certain day. That
Yeah,
would be-
I just absolutely think you got to be really self-aware of how it affects you, and don't think that I can just sit in the school pickup line and scroll through this and it's not going to be a big deal. It can for me, it can mess with you and kind of hang with you the rest of the day, and you not realize it. Scrolling through it right before you go to bed, not good news.
No.
If there is that blog post or that one widow fan page that really is helpful to you, go directly to their blog.
Totally.
Go on the World Wide Web and find their
the
blog.
interwebs.
Yeah, go
No,
on the line and find it.
On the line, yes, on the lines, on the interwebs. I also will say this, and I'm sure this has happened to you. There are people that come up to me personally that will say, I saw that post. I think that's great.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're doing it. It's good to see what's going on. I'm starting to understand what you're going through, because people do truly just want to help and don't know how to. And when you can give them a little bit of information or share a little bit, if you're in a way to do that on a particular day, I think it genuinely helps people that are just trying
And
to
it's
understand
not,
you.
it's not what my teenagers call vague booking. You know, you
Oh.
have put out a legitimate post, article that helps people. It's not you posting, I'm having a rotten day, and then everyone panics and calls and wonders how you're doing.
Send you
You're putting
flowers.
out, you're putting out solid information that kind of helps them know that, yeah, she's struggling right now, but that's normal. This is where she's at in the process. She may hang out in that place for weeks, but this helps. And so, yeah, absolute benefits of social media. Just
And I have found that it also, like, people that I wouldn't expect to hear from have commented or said things or personal messaged me, whatever. I mean, that I would never have expected to hear from, that have said, I appreciate you putting this out there. Helps, it's just, I like to know what's going on. I follow it. I pay attention to it. I want to know that, well, how you're doing. And so I appreciate, and I'm like, I'm surprised. And it's kind of comforting to know that some of the people that you don't see daily or talk to daily or weekly or monthly are out there, and that via the social media, I guess, via the Facebooks.
I always think, yeah, this isn't the life I wanted, but
Nope.
I also would not have done well as a pioneer woman or a World War II widow, where I would have had to wait weeks to hear from my family,
Victorian.
and I couldn't have, had this instant communications. So there is real value in it, just moderation.
Yeah, or like Morse code days.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have liked that.
No, we would
No.
not.
I wouldn't have done well in the
I still
Morse
would not
codes.
have received the telegram that you were a widow. We'd
Yeah.
still be waiting for that
It's
since
still,
we
yeah,
live
you
far
still
away.
wouldn't, you wouldn't even know.
Right.
You probably wouldn't even know
Right.
yet.
I would not, yeah.
It would be crazy. But yeah,
So-
so this is our take on social media from Widow Chat mail.
Okay, hold on. Our hot widow message of the day. Hot widow.
What did you just say? May your day be widow-tastic.
Widow-tastic. The old widow-tastic
Let's
day.
think on that. I'll record unless we think of one today. We'll get a couple ideas.
Audience I think that we could possibly reach is
I'm here with.
That's, yeah, 'cause that way we come out.
Here
in the
within.
open. I'm here with.
Okay. My name is Sarah, and I'm here with Stacy, and we are here at Widow Chat. And today's topic is a fun one: tombstones. Really, the cemetery experience when you go through this. So I'm going to kick this off to Stacy to start off, because I think her story is really funny. If you can say that about a tombstone.
Well, we are going to make this funny. So yeah, I am a widow, and I'm one of those widows who didn't get stuff done at the beginning, and I
Cannot
didn't.
believe that.
I didn't know there were acceptable timelines for things like picking out a tombstone. So I waited a really long time.
How long?
I remember someone. So my husband passed away in July of 2013, and I remember someone saying, it would be nice if you had that tombstone finished and installed by Memorial Day. And I remember thinking, that's a good goal.
That's 10 months.
Yeah, we can totally do that. And then, February rolls around, and I think, I don't really want to do that.
Plus, it was cold.
It was cold, and so now we're at the year mark, and people are wanting to go visit the cemetery and pay respects, and I don't have anything out there. And now I just look like the uncaring widow who just, went off and did her thing.
Right.
No, I back up. I think I did get it there by the year mark, but I knew now the pressure's on. People are starting to talk about how Stacy can't get her act together.
Right.
So
Judge.
I called the funeral home guy and said, clearly it's time. I got to do something. And he said, okay, you need to come by and look at some catalogs. And I thought that sounded awful.
That totally sounds awful.
I said, can I do this online? And he said, well, I got some
It's
books.
like if J. Crew had tombstones, it'd be so much
It's
easier.
so much easier. And they would be cute, and they would have fun color
They would.
names like.
And probably
yeah.
the blingies.
Darn it. So I told him that's not an option. I'm not going to come look at catalogs. So one day I'm at a stoplight, and I look over to the right, and there is a tombstone store. Yes, it really.
Like next to the coffee shop?
Yeah, and like they have some in the display, and I think, I like that one. So I called the funeral director guy and said, go down the street, look in the window. I want
Go
the
to the
gray one.
tombstone store.
I want the gray one. He said, great. So we get to work from there, and it's a
Wait,
long
can we back up?
process.
Was funeral guy also like the guy that was like your neighbor and mowed, or wait?
Yeah, he also has a lawn mowing business. And
No, I'm
installs
serious.
spring-
This is like for real.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a small town. You
a
gotta
small
you
town.
gotta
That's
be
my favorite,
multifaceted.
is that- yeah, totally.
You can't single focus.
Jack
doesn't
of all
work.
trades.
So, so that's how I picked out the tombstone, and I was pretty proud of myself. I picked out the wording, and that's complicated because you feel like you're kind of laying out a life story in 147 characters. And so, a lot of discussion, do we put my name on it? Do we not put my name on it? And eventually I decided not to. So he places the order for me after I make all those decisions. I remember one of the really big decisions was flower vases on the side. Apparently this is a thing. And I said I didn't want them. And
They're expensive too.
well, he tells me everyone does it. And then I think, well, I should probably do it because
Everybody's
what will
doing
people
it.
think? And then he informs me that you got to keep flowers in it every month. And the flower shop comes out and does that. Well,
That's nice.
that's the craziest thing ever. Why? So I said I don't want those because my husband would think that's a crazy expense.
Right, he wouldn't enjoy that.
So now the tombstone is a tombstone with two little flat things on the side where vases should be, but I'm too cheap to do it.
Right.
So this is what we've put together. I think it's brilliant. I mean, I think I've nailed this thing. And then he calls and says it's out there. You should probably go look at it.
Right.
And I go by myself and I get out there. It's so stinking ugly. It is just like that
I don't know
day.
why I'm laughing, but I
had
am
gone to
laughing.
the cemetery quite a bit, but I had never really looked at anyone else's tombstone.
Right.
That day,
You looked at
everyone-
everybody.
It's like the first day of school and you think your outfit is knocking it out of the park, and then you get there and you're like, oh, that's the style. That was kind of my moment of oops. And then I thought in 200 years this is going to look good. It's really going to look good. It maybe
Vintage.
it's going to look vintage,
And that's gonna be
like I
hip.
said, my husband was a bit of a cheapskate. Don't spend money on those kind of things. Spend money on experiences. And I remember calling my girlfriend and saying, it looks like a cinder block. It just isn't really what I picked out. And she's like, you picked it out through a store window. Don't, I think it is what you picked out.
Oh
You just
my
weren't in the
God.
right frame of mind. And then about that same time, I got a new car. And,
Right.
And in a small town, everybody knows when you get a new car.
Right.
And I purchased a nice car. I'm excited
did.
about my car.
It's a nice car.
So I felt like, because the tombstone looked cheap. It looked like I cut some corners. So I felt like maybe the appropriate response was just to take a Sharpie and write on it. I spent the money on a car.
A real nice car. A really, really pretty nice
But
car.
I didn't. And I took my girls do not like to go to the cemetery. They've been there just a couple times.
Totally understanding.
And I talked them into going out that day. It served a great purpose because I'm like, girls, you got to come look at this because I don't know if I should have it removed or what I should do. And I take them out there, and my girls are middle school and high school and honest, and I take them out there, and they're like, they just start laughing.
Well, hey, better. That's a better response.
And they're
than-
like, it's fine. It really is. It's not a big deal. It's not, it's not like it's neon green or it's just very traditional, very basic. So just don't worry about the tombstone. It's about the life, not the tombstone.
It is. It's about a life
Yeah.
well lived. Now,
Yeah.
I did mine. He got his tombstone. Well, we had everybody out to see it on Father's Day, so it was 11 months after he died. He was actually laid to rest officially Easter weekend, which was like 11, yeah, what did I say? Start over. Okay. What did I start with? Okay. So my experience with the cemetery and the tombstone began 13 months after he died. That was when we actually had the stone, or it was a bronze plate in place, and that's when I had the family out to view it for the first time. He was actually laid to rest Easter weekend, which was about 11 months before he died, because I realized that my son has started to wonder and ask, where's Dad? Why haven't we gone to see Dad? Because after the funeral, the hearse left with his body, but there was no graveside service. And my son decided to pick up on that, several months after that, because I was like, nobody talked about it. We just kind of said, yep, there it goes. Okay, we're going to go have a party now. And that's what we did, because we're Irish, and that's what you do. So nobody in the child area or in the child age range really thought much of it. And everybody else kind of understood, okay, there's no graveside service, or maybe it's going to be private. But when he started asking about why haven't we seen Dad, I basically had to get him in the ground. So I did, but I didn't have a plate until later. So I couldn't bring him out there till, I couldn't bring my son out there. But what happened with that whole process was I only had like so many characters. It was like a tweet. I basically had like a tweet on his stone, on his bronze plate, which is great because it left me with nothing to work with, which was fine. But I remember going in, and we're Catholic, so I meet with the gal, and she's real nice, and I'm like, here's how we're gonna do it. We're not gonna do it. We're not laying him to rest today. We're laying him to rest, at this point, whenever, but then we want the ceremony to be done later than when we actually put him in the ground. And she said, well, that's against the diocesan rules. And I said, well, who do I need to talk to? Give me the phone number and the name, and I'll give them a call, because my son thinks this has been done, and I'm not bringing him out there with a hole thinking, this hasn't been done. I mean, that is just not going to happen. So she's like, let me call you back. And like 5 hours later, she calls back. She goes, okay, that's fine. You can do it your way. So we basically went against the entire diocese of how they enter, and I understand there's a process. So then we did that, and then when we finally had the ceremony, she's like, well, you can't have the ceremony on a Sunday, and you can't, and you need to let everybody know that if a bunch of people are coming. And I'm like, well, it's going to be on a Sunday, and there are a bunch of people coming. She goes, okay, I got to check with the diocese because it's against the diocese rules. I go, again, who's the person? What's the phone number? I'll call them. And anyway, once again, we did it on a Sunday. We ended up doing it on Father's Day, and our priest came out, and he knew the process. He knew exactly how we were doing this. I mean, he also did our funeral, so he knew there was no graveside service. But it was fun, only in that I got my way. I fought the diocese, and I won. And I like my diocese, but all these rules is just like, come on. And this was all really to protect my son, so he wouldn't be scared,
Yeah.
And he was fine.
I'm thankful I didn't live, because I've heard of, cemeteries who have rules of, 6 weeks you have to have a tombstone.
Oh, yeah.
And tombstones aren't cheap.
No.
I mean, there's an expense that you need to plan for, and it's just a decision that is so permanent,
It's forever.
Yeah, your casket
Unless
is
you change
permanent,
it.
but they cover it up so people don't come and see it years from now.
Mine wasn't, as I told you.
yes,
Mine was rented.
so-
Different.
So it is what it is, and it serves its purpose. It marks the grave for historical purposes. We'll be able to. I have a place now. My tombstone.
You
is
need it
picked
for the
out.
kids.
They won't have to make that decision. So I don't know if I had to do it all over again. I might make the decision earlier in the process and actually look at a catalog.
Yeah,
and
but
not pick it out
catalogs.
through the window.
I mean, it's like buying shoes. I
It
don't know.
is,
It's
and-
I don't. That sounds like buying a pair of shoes, or
Yeah.
the tombstone. But like we talked about this offline once about when you told me how bad the tombstone you thought looked, and I said, well, it's like awkward family photos. You can just start a business called Awkward Family Tombstones and see how maybe that's our next business.
Yeah, and it did serve a great.
Is it just that it's plain, or what
It's
is it?
so plain.
See, but
It's
that's
really
good.
just plain.
That's how
And
he
everybody's
would have
got
wanted it.
shiny things out there.
You don't want shiny.
A bench and lots of flowers, and
You don't want
I'm just,
shiny.
it's really bare bones.
That's okay.
It is. It's
Plain
okay.
is good.
And I
Plain-
don't go out there a lot. I have to drive by the cemetery every day when I take
Oh,
my
you
kids
do?
to school. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't go out there much.
So do you do a little shout out as you drive by? a little
Some
bit?
days, some
Yeah.
days. The girls are starting to go a little. They're not requesting to go, but when I throw the idea out there, they say okay.
They're okay with it.
We don't spend a lot of time out there. Early on, I went out a lot and I laid on the ground and
Sure.
it was ugly. But,
Cried. Yeah.
But
Purged.
now sometimes, like I remember Memorial Day, I thought this seems like a day I should go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, we didn't do that growing up, but apparently I should go to the cemetery on Memorial Day. And so our cemetery is old. We're one of
That's
the oldest
neat.
towns in
That's
the
neat.
state, and so he's in the new kids section, the
Right,
new kids on the block.
NKOTB.
So you got to go to the back. You got to go through some Midnight of Good and Evil.
Right, which I love that.
Statues, and you get
Midnight in the
there.
Garden.
Yeah, and so on Memorial Day I do this, and then I realize, here's the problem. Everyone else comes to the cemetery on Memorial
They
Day.
do. It's kind of a busy day.
Yeah, so I don't do that
Or the day
anymore.
before.
Yeah.
Or the day after.
Yeah, it's a social event on Memorial Day, so I don't do
No.
that anymore.
No. Now it was a social event when we did finally lay him to rest on Father's Day. There was champagne, and of course there's the bar. There was bar service, but that's what we do. That's how his family is. I mean, everything was celebrated with. I mean,
I'm doing this wrong. That's a great idea.
that's how the Irish Catholics do it,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, Father was expecting it. I mean, I asked him, I go, you don't mind if we bring some drinks? He goes, I kind of expected that you would. So
Wow, the German Lutherans need to take some notes. That's
take
a
some
good
notes of the
idea.
Irish
Yeah,
Catholic, because that's all. Yeah, I mean, everything's a party. I mean, hey, it's a party. Whatever it is, it's a party.
that's excellent.
Kids are running around. Shay was looking at the names of the dates of other tombstones. Like he's like, Mom, somebody died on Christmas. That's awful. I go, yeah. So see, it could always be worse, right? Your first communion day or Christmas. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. Good way to see the positive.
Right.
Super positive. I love it. But yeah, that was. I mean, I'm glad I did it. It's comforting to go there. I went a lot like you did at first, and I had just gone for the first time not this Sunday, but the Sunday prior, because it was the date of death and the Sunday. So it was
Yeah.
the 4th of the month and a Sunday.
same
And
day.
he died on the 4th, and he died on a Sunday. And those days, for whatever reason, when it falls like that, they rock me. And one of his college friends was in town, so I took him out there. And it helped, it is comforting just to be there and sit there. He's under a tree. I found a little tree for
Yes.
him, and he enjoys that.
And I have cemetery guilt. Like
Oh, God.
all of a sudden it'll hit me. I haven't been there in a while. I should do that.
Yeah.
And some days I'll wake up and know that's where I need to go before the day starts. And,
Oh,
and so
that's
I have,
neat.
but some days I'll get out there and I'll see like people put pinwheels and
Yeah, they do a lot of stuff.
football flags and
Right.
And
There's a lot of
I'm like,
tchotchkes.
Oh yeah, huh? I
There's
didn't do
tchotchkes,
that.
but what
we
would-
did do a jack-o'-lantern and took that,
Which is
because
great.
he loved Halloween.
Right.
And, so
But he
we
wouldn't want
did
you to
do
spend a lot of
that.
money and do
No.
like, you know.
But I feel like I'm kind of getting the hang of it, and I think I'll get a wreath out there
Ooh,
at Christmas.
That's moving forward with some stuff.
I know, but I feel like I might be getting the hang of it.
I don't think that they do a lot at my cemetery because, again, diocese. But naturally, I will do whatever. Like, I think I brought him out a Captain and Coke and just left it in a red Solo cup, and they mowed over it. I'm sure, or
here's
they
a-
drank it.
Here's a cemetery etiquette question I've had: is at the beginning,
You're asking the wrong person.
my husband did triathlons and
Right.
raced, and we both did races. People would bring their running bibs out.
Oh,
Or their race medals and leave
Cool.
them. He died on his way to a triathlon.
Right.
So, which is lovely. I mean, it really.
but
was
you want
very
those medals.
meaningful.
But you want those medals.
What do I do with those items? They're in a Ziploc in a drawer in my home.
Oh, right now.
Yeah,
Oh,
because there's cemetery rules, and you got to clean everything up before
Mm-hmm.
the first of something. So, what do you do with those items?
oh, after cleanup, or
Yeah,
I don't know. But those were really important to him. I mean,
they're not his medals.
oh, they're people
Like,
left. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like I went
Oh.
and ran this race in his honor.
I got it.
I don't know whose they are.
Oh, do you put it out on the Facebooks?
I might put it out on
Take
the
a
line.
picture. Just take a picture
And,
of all of them and go claim. You have like from 2 to 4 on Thursday to come claim.
Meet you at the prettiest tombstone.
Yeah, meet you at the prettiest tombstone in the city that he is buried in, because nobody knows where that is that's
Right.
listening to this. Yes, exactly. I think that's what you do, and then just kind of set up a little like booth with like a
and
chair.
dispense things back out.
Buy a bench. Now
Yeah.
there's the reason to buy the bench, right there, because this is going to probably keep happening.
I know.
I
Well,
get it now.
it's slowing down a little.
Oh, it's gotten-
It is. It
okay.
is. So
I would bring my bib from this coming Saturday there, but that would be a long drive.
right, you can mail it and I'll hang it.
Can I
there.
mail it, and then will
Yeah.
you just put it
Yeah.
for me? Yeah, can I? Yeah,
great.
Exactly. Or actually, I'll just take a picture of it, Instagram it. Except I have to get on the Instagrams to do that. You can print it and just go set it like a Xerox copy
Perfect.
on it. Yeah, and then you have to pick it up by cleanup date, whatever that is.
I think that's coming up.
See, I don't know about those things. We do have the vase, but I've never used it. It's bronze.
Well, that looks more negligent. I don't even
know.
have the vase.
Well,
You have an
does
empty
it
vase.
It falls down. It folds
No,
underneath.
I didn't get the vases because that
Well,
was
the
a
vase
monthly
folds down
commitment.
so it doesn't like there is one there. You have to pull it back up so they can mow. That's how they do it.
Oh, 'cause
so it's a
you're-
folder downer, so nobody knows I have one unless I pull it up and put a thing in. So if it's not being used with flowers, it just stays down. So you don't even know unless you're standing right over his grave. And even then you can't really tell because it's this weird little contraption that you have to like turn and pull up. It's totally, the Catholics know how to do this stuff, man. We got this figured out. We know how to set up a bar at a cemetery site, at a grave site. So I mean, we got it all figured out, seriously. I mean, I'm an event planner. I could go into cemetery party planning, graveside service party planning,
I
something
think
like
that's
that.
an excellent market.
I think that there's a huge market out there. Just bring your pop-up bar and all that. I could just like buy one and carry it around with me in my car, in one of my 2 cars, one driver. Anyway,
So that's our tombstone cemetery story. Not that it was humorous from the beginning to the end, but we both had episodes where we just found a like mind who could laugh with us. It is a very serious event, but some of that stuff you just got to roll with it. And yeah, it's permanent, but it really isn't about the life. So
it's about a life well lived, and we know that, and we recognize that, and we don't mean to make light of it, but it's part of how I cope, and I know it's a lot part how you cope. So this is one of those times where, yeah, it might have gone a little wrong, but it helped us get through it. So thanks for listening.
All right.
Okay, we'll figure out.